So what was the idea?
Well, maybe I'll start with a questioning. We'll see where it takes us.
Mm-hmm.
What is how would you describe in its content a thought?
The images
Of what?
Of things that I've seen, or that I've perceived.
And
Images of perception.
okay,
Of
so
others.
what is the and perceptions? How do you then know perceptions? What is a perception? Its content.
In its content.
Yeah.
Or what you've seen, things that are seen, in particular types of sight.
So let's look at something. What do we have here? Tape measure. So you're looking at a tape measure. What is in its content of your sight?
The shape, the colour.
The shape, the color. What is a shape? Color and content. What is a shape? The designation. Shape, color, color. What is that in your mind?
Well, an image. I suppose it's the closest thing I can word it.
Sure.
It's a.
Yeah, that's fine. We can call it an image. So it's an image. So then,
Mhm.
is your perception an image? As in an actual perception? Is this also an image? In your mind?
Yeah. It's a different type of. It's not as.
What's the difference? What do you mean different type?
Well, if I'm imagining a measuring
Sure.
tape,
Okay.
and then when I'm seeing one,
Yeah.
there's a different quality.
But what is in common?
The
What is in common to the sight of a tape measure and now to your thought of it? What is in common?
well, the thought.
Sure. But what is the content of the thought then? Like, because you have a abstract thought, an actual thought, theoretical, clear, ambiguous thought. What do they all have in common? What do all thoughts have in common?
Their thoughts.
But in terms of the content, what do they all have in common? What is the common characteristic of all the thoughts? What do they all have? You said it.
Well, the images.
They have an image. Literally, an image.
So the thought and the image is different. You're talking about
Well,
different.
I'm trying to clarify it here, in the sense that image is like a specific. It's within a thought. So you can have you can't have thoughts without images. But images are more precise thoughts, so to speak. So you can call them thoughts, dhammas. You can call them phenomena.
Images of content.
But that's the thing. You don't start with a pure recognition of image as a content. You start with heavy concepts of abstract thoughts, ideas, designations. So you need to make the effort through those ideas and designations to discern a certain enduring container of an image, which is what gives the identity to the thought as a thought. So that's what I mean, thought is a more broader application of the term, but more specifically, images.
So can you say, so something has manifested?
Yeah, those are the
And
characteristic of images.
And that exactly, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So that I can only know that because there's some image there.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. In the same sense, in the previous talk we spoke about the resisting aspect of your thought. That's where images are. Because you have no say in how things appeared to you, in how it manifested. yet that is an image upon which you can think further and further and further. So yeah, you said correctly, in a way there is a difference between you imagining your images and you perceiving. But there is also the common ground to it. And that common ground is not an external relationship, that common ground is a necessary container for both. You wouldn't be able to think this particular tape measure if you've never seen it. And you've never seen it if you never had an image in your mind of it. That's why you can sometimes not see it, but I can describe it to you, and then you can see it and recognize it as the same thing. Because it's the same basis of the same images. And any difference in like my description and what you saw, like if the difference is not sufficient for you to doubt the identity of the thing, you realize, oh no, that's the thing he was talking about. No, I understand it correctly now. So perceptions and imagination are mental images. So whether you perceive, whether you imagine, images are there. So in other words, perception is basically images of the senses, and imagination is images upon the images.
But you wouldn't say like an image represents what
No.
sense.
Absolutely not. Because that assumes there is, that you can even conceive rightly that from which my perception came about. And how can you know that unless you're perceiving it? Which means, how can you perceive what comes before perception? So this is before my perception.
But that's an assumption.
That's an assumption of the external world. That's how you allow the footing for the matter. Because it's because of the matter that you perceive. But see, when thinking, that's the real matter, no, that you can only perceive it, which means you can only perceive your perception. And then you get to assume the matter behind.
So would you say a feeling is an imaged?
Everything, yeah. Everything that manifests is an image on the level of manifestation.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to use the word image, not the word thought, because then people say, so only when I think it, it's real. No. You can only think something if the images are there. And you don't have to think it. You can just look at it. And that's the common ground that probably many people would struggle to find between senses, as in the physical, and the mental. Because it's usually the senses, and now I'm in my thoughts as a result of it. No. Whether senses, whether my thoughts, images are there. Perceptual images are there. That's why it's on the level of perception. Images as well.
So say somebody not mindful, they're kind of not really thinking about what they're doing, but they're doing something, aiming towards something. So that thing that they're aiming at, they're not actually aware of what it is they're aiming at, but it's still present as an image.
Yeah.
It's just not something that they're actually going, oh look, that's the thing that I'm...
Exactly.
Still, there's
Exactly.
something...
I don't know what I want, that's the images you have in your mind.
Yeah.
You have a vague, ambiguous direction. I don't know what I want, but clearly you're doing something about it in some way, which means you have some sense. So whatever, a sense, a thought, ambiguous idea, abstract theory, actual perception of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, images are there. Because literally, Dhamma could be translated as an image, a phenomenon, an image, a thing. Yeah.
So, would you say the image is also like what's designated, the designation of whatever it is that's manifested? So something's there, it's designated in some way, that's the image.
That's already the beginning of your designation, sure. Yeah. Can you have an image without a color of it?
No.
Exactly. So that's why the Buddha described perception in its fundamental terms. He perceives yellow, white, blue, or red. That's it.
But you can have an image without flavour. Sour, sweet, salt.
Sure, you can.
But you can't have an image without a colour.
No.
Without space.
Without space, exactly. That's why you can use space practically to surmount the senses.
So you can have an image without a touch.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, it's like there's not much you can designate, not much difference to designate between the touch. Your first point of touch is the first point of resistance, which is this body as a whole. So the image would then stand for that, but there's not much you can describe about that. But if you want to describe the characteristic of an image, yeah, it has to be color, has to be shape, which means has to have space, has to be off space.
Has to be sound.
Not really.
So if I have an image, of a taste, I have the image of a taste.
Yeah.
The experience of a taste. So there's something salty.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Saltiness without colour.
Yeah, you can't. Can you imagine colour without saltiness? You can.
Because
the senses also, they're not linear. The whole arrangement within material arrangement of your sense organs is such. It has its own arrangement.
Mm.
They're not all on the same field, so to speak, on the same level ground. So, but can you imagine saltiness without tasting it? Like you have the idea of saltiness, but it's already quite secondary. But you can imagine blue, and it would go all the way to the point of the image, whatever. You can imagine yellow. Literally, you have an image of yellow in your mind. But saltiness, without tasting, you're not tasting in your mouth. You can be hoping to taste it, but it's going to be more on a level of a secondary concept. Because you'll be really, when you imagine saltiness, you're imagining yourself eating some salty food, which is more like images of colors and shapes that you're consuming.
So
that then get to taste like this.
Yeah, when I say salt, I think white.
Sure. Yeah.
So the perception of salt is experienced through the eye.
Well, that's why the kind of...
Not perception of, sorry, the perception of the image of tastes.
The image of taste.
The image of taste. So not the perception of taste.
In a way, yes. Yeah. Not specifically through the eye, but you could say through the mental eye. There has to be an image there.
Yeah.
Even if you were like blind your whole life, you will have to have an image of your experience as a whole of consuming some object in your mouth that was producing the salty taste for you. But you can't imagine the pure saltiness in itself. But that's beside the point now, how these particular senses, which comes first. Doesn't matter, whichever way they come, an image has to be there. And if people were confused, why would you be describing the perception in terms of colors, these images, it's because, that's what it will boil down to. And you can describe it also in terms of space. That's why space is sometimes listed as one of the elements. It's not fundamentally an element like four Mahabhutas, but it's out there with consciousness and other Mahabhutas, so like the 6 elements.
So you said, why every image has a color?
Every image is. Because now when you think every image has a color, they're saying color, it's another image for you. So what you're really saying is every image has an image. And that's true, but that's not practically accurate. So there is an image within which you discern the properties of color, characteristics of its being manifested. So think space. When I say space, what image is present in your mind? Space. What's present in your mind?
Well, something clear.
Something clear.
Yeah.
When I say space, what's present in my mind is the word space. Literally.
Oh, okay.
Written word space is what's present in your mind. But Whatever.
I was thinking expansive, sort of.
The point is, there has to be an image.
There's some image
There has to be an image.
Yeah.
If I say, I don't know, a term in another language that you don't understand,
Yeah.
you still have to have an image in your mind of,
Yeah.
based on the basis of sound that I just produced at
Yeah.
you. You will have an image of what does that mean? Is this gibberish, or is this particular language? Or you will have to have some image always. There is no such thing as an imageless mind, unless neither perception nor perception and so on.
Okay.
Even space, basis of infinite space is basis of infinite image.
Yeah.
Image of infiniteness of space.
But ordinarily, even if you're not there, there's something's going. There's an image. Within that image, you will discern various perceptions.
Well, within that image, you'll discern the five senses.
That's what I mean.
Within that
That's
image,
what
you'll
sight, sound,
discern more images.
Yeah.
Within that image, you'll discern your intentions.
So there's a kind of a sort of starting image, which is basically the image of this experience.
Yeah, and the starting image does not disappear when the second thing comes in.
No,
the starting image remains as a primary soul only container
Basis.
in which
Yeah.
you can't be outside of it.
Yeah.
That's why the mind comes first, the image comes first.
So the primary image.
You thinking outside of there's outside of this image that endures
uh,
is another image
That
within
image
this
that
image.
endure is the experience as a whole.
Sorry?
Experience as a whole.
Yeah, of course. That's what the image like experience as a
Like
whole. When I say imagine your experience as a whole,
Hmm.
or don't imagine your experience as a whole. Come back to the body. Be here now. Present. Be present moment. What is present with you in the most acute sense? You are not specifically looking. Well, I might be doing if I'm doing some sort of meditation technique, but if I'm not falling into that trap, and so you just want to be present. What is the closest thing to you? It's an image of this experience as a whole.
Yeah.
This image. This.
So that's the point.
Yeah.
You can't really have anything other than that,
Yeah.
even if you want to.
Mm.
But the problem is when you have images, yet here you are thinking you're observing the actual form. You
Yeah.
think you're observing the matter, the reality behind. You think you're observing physical sensations and whatnot. All you're observing is images enduring, on account of which you end up misconceiving those images as matter, misconceiving those images as feelings, as perceptions, as intentions, as basically misconceiving the aggregates. Or rather conceiving the aggregates, giving them the being, assuming them, appropriating them. Think about me, myself. Can you even think that without an image? A certain degree, a certain independence of aspect of that thought, I am. There's a certain shape to it, but usually gets associated with your own face. It's like a veiled in the background, but the point is an image is there. It doesn't matter how ambiguous, how subtle, image has to be there. And not being trained in regard to those images means not being trained in regard to your mind. And that's how you will always then be governed by the kind of these assumed directions that these images take you. Image of my face means me, I am, my control, master, owner, appropriator. All that's implied. Not seeing it, you took it upon yourself. So leave your mind blank.
Wait,
What is that?
you can't.
You can. What is that? It's
Yeah.
another image.
Another image.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not truly blank.
Mm.
Because, well, but how can you even designate blankness unless it's absence of something else, which is then an image present in your mind in regard to this, which is absence of that image. Think about the empty room.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So see, that's the whole the sign of emptiness that the Buddha was talking about. Like imagine like when you go into the empty hut and you realize this place is empty of other people. So it's actually factually perceiving an image of absence of others. Fully develop that image and then apply it to yourself. Oh, so is this experience as a whole in its entirety. This image is absent of persons. That's it. Because you clarified the sign of emptiness, the characteristics of emptiness, means you see it as a clear image. Now you see it also pertaining to your own experience as a whole. It's not empty, just space out and drool, sort of pass out unconscious. No, it's empty of this. This experience is empty of lust, it's empty of aversion, it's empty of delusion. So, if I say emptiness, what's present in the mind? Emptiness. What image is there?
Well, nothingness.
Okay, so what are the characteristics of nothingness?
Empty. Empty space.
What is the characteristic of empty space? So then the space is there. So there is a certain container, but it's empty. So things that...
But things could be in there.
Yeah, but the point is, so things that are making the space empty are there as absence, as a negative presence. Because if there is nothing that could be in there, you wouldn't say this is empty of so. It would just be this is so. So the nothingness of what then?
The nothingness.
When I ask you emptiness, what do you say? Oh, it's nothing, nothingness. I say, well, what is the characteristic of nothingness? Okay, characteristic is empty space. Empty of what? That space, empty of what? What is the absence in that space, in that nothingness? That comes to your mind when I keep repeating nothingness, 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 nothingness.
Well, there's the absence of something.
Absence of something, well, but that's already something, isn't it? Nothingness. What I said is something. So you can't say it's absence of something, because then it's not absence of itself.
Yeah.
So more specifically, nothingness, or emptiness, more accurately. Empty of what?
Empty of everything else that's not there.
What are the characteristics of being empty? Don't necessarily look for it's empty of this or this or this. Characteristics of being empty. As we just described it, it has to be
Kind of
a negative, exactly, negative presence or presence of absence. So dwell on the presence of absence.
Already empty.
Nothing.
It's not really empty, as in it's not really empty in you assume the external world of real absence of things, which is inconceivable. It's not really empty. You can't even finish that sentence if things were truly empty, as in don't exist. Emptiness is not non-existence. It's only emptiness of certain things. But people are used to, well, not seeing the images in their mind and then just following the kind of the positive directions of craving, pretty much.
You say it like it's a pure image.
Let's finish with this.
Okay.
So the point is, emptiness. It's an image in your mind. Like you can even say, when I say emptiness, I just have a word emptiness written in my mind. Big E. Okay, so what are the characteristics of something being empty? You said, well, it's an empty space. Okay, empty space is defined as an empty space by absence of that which is empty of. That is its characteristic. That's what definition of emptiness is. Doesn't matter what is empty of.
Yeah.
So it's a negative presence or presence of the absence of certain things. Dwell on that image. Presence of absence, basically. It's not a contradiction because absence
is a thing.
Is a thing that is present. So it's the content of that that's not there, but the nature of absence is there. What else does it mirror? The same principle in your experience then.
Anatta.
Yeah, sense of ownership. Sense of master, controller. Because I am here. Where? What is the content of my sense of self? Can you find it? Can you find the content of what you are? But you are.
It's always a negative.
So you're the absence of content is your presence. And that's why sense of self is assumed in regard to everything and nothing. But once you study, so the absence, the presence of the absence is a real image. I don't need to keep chasing content and only to verify the image through finding the content. No, it's the other way around. So by understanding the nature of emptiness, you get to understand the nature of anatta. And that's why this room is empty of others, and his mind is established upon the perception of that image. So is this body. These 5 aggregates are empty of the self, as in the self master controller. Empty. So there is the sense of self, there is the present absence of the owner. Absence of the owner means non-ownership. Doesn't mean there was never ever presence of the absent owner. Sense of self is absent owner. Not seeing it as an absent owner, well, you get to then appropriate everything that you assume that that self owns. But you realize that selves can only be the absence of the actual owner, then your self becomes not self, automatically. So back onto the images then. It's important to emphasize your seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching would not be so unless it's already an image in itself. Also, it's all in my mind then. It's all in my thought. That's an image that has arisen for you. So images are neither in your head nor in the things.
It's just
they're in the middle.
Something is there.
Something is there. Images are that manifestation,
Yeah.
that arising that the Buddha talks about. That's what image is.
And
within that you can discern now the direction, the content of the sense objects, or the absence of sense object. You can discern the content like of further images in your mind, as in your own abstract thinking and so on.
And the crucial characteristic of these images is that you don't create them.
No, that's what I mean. Like, based on the previous talk we've done about the aspect of resistance in your thoughts, that's what images are. That which resists already has some shape, already has some form, so to speak.
You wouldn't recognise it if it wasn't.
Absolutely.
In some way, there was an image there.
Yeah, exactly. It would not be known.
Yeah.
Resistance is already an image.
Yeah, exactly. You cannot
think of resistance and then the image resists.
Yeah,
No, resistance is an image. Resistance is already a designation.
But there can't be an image
designation already resists
without resistance.
Exactly. Either way,
So they're
an image needs to be there.
So they're on equal footing, those two. They're not like one.
And you could see how it could perhaps make more sense then. You could see how you could establish your mind upon the basis of infinite space. Dwell on the image of infinity. The actual resisting aspect of the thought of infinity. That is what infinity is. Fully understand it, fully invest effort in it, as the Buddha said, fully develop theme of it, as in fully discern the signs of infinity, infinite space, and then you'll be dwelling and abiding in it. Whether you're walking, sitting, eating, lying down, going to the toilet, your mind will be within that container of infinity.
Meaning that you're including all.
Meaning that whatever comes to that will be inferior to it,
That's what
as the
I mean,
Buddha
yeah.
would describe it. Being inferior to it,
You found
be
a place
completely
that sort
dispassionate about it.
of includes all
Yeah.
resistance.
An image that includes all the other image you're used to.
Yeah.
So people usually swing between the two, like, I'm looking or I'm thinking. I can't see anything in between. So when you talk about images, these are thoughts. But now this is the reality of my senses. So you don't want to be excluding either. You want to see what's in common to both. When I have the experience of an image, when I have the experience of a sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. The experience is, there's an image there arisen, presently enduring on its own.
Just thinking it's like the whole philosophical tradition has been like swinging between the empiricists who are saying the senses come first, and then the rationalists who are saying no, the thoughts come first.
Senses and thoughts are only known because they're an image.
Yeah.
They appear as an image.
Neither of them are seeing the middle ground, the middle way.
Yeah. Practice of Kasinas is practice of images.
Yeah.
as in the greater images than the images that you kind of encounter in your average experience. That's why Kasinas of 4 elements, colours, space and consciousness.
So it's not focusing on a disc.
No, of course not. That means focusing on what you're looking at. Means you're not actually seeing that. You can only look at something because it's already an image, because it's already known as an image. It's already appeared as an image. It's already enduring as an image.
So it's more about discerning more.
That's why, like the what was it, Sariputta, or who was it?
The block of wood.
The block of wood.
Mahamoggallana.
Discerning it as different.
Yeah.
As air, as basis of air, basis of water, basis of fire.
Attractive, ugly.
Attractive, ugly.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah.
It's the block of wood. It's so far down that if you look at the more general nature of what images it pertains to, it has solidity. The image of solid is there.
Mm-hmm.
The image of heat is there, and the image of beauty is there.
And it's rather that. So the image of solidity is that sort of higher ground where, you can see the block of wood.
Yeah, it's within the experience of
Within
seeing
that.
the block of wood, but you see the higher ground as coming first,
Yeah, that's right,
structurally, not the block of wood you're staring at.
Yeah.
And that's why the Buddha said, like in that, when you develop the kasinas, like his mind gets, like he said, the monk practices, then I don't know, take kasina of earth, the mind develops upon the image of earth, image of solid. And that's literally, in everything you can ever perceive has a degree of solid, which means partakes to the element of earth. It's within that. His mind develops upon that, he then develops this passion, understanding and the escape in regard to the image of earth. And what is then to be said about everything that's inferior to it? You abandon it completely. Or water, fire, air, blue, yellow, light, and so on. The point is, the principle is, you get to discern an image on account of your current thought or sense objects, but you get to understand it as an image coming first.
Yeah.
So, for most people, they might discern an image, but they'll always put it second. So they'll put that which is first as second, and their second sight they'll put as first. And that's how natural assumption of things from the world first come to me here. As in here, there, between the two, it's already an image of space in your mind. And that's what's first structurally. You wouldn't have any concept of distance, movement, intentionality if the image is not there, providing you with possibilities of that.
So the image is fundamental.
Yes. And when you have a thought of now the fundamental, that's an image in your mind.
But any particular image content has the nature of image.
Sure. There is no image, and now you have something different to an image within an image.
All you can access
is images within images.
You can't step back because any thought of something
Yes,
that's not an image is another image.
You can have an image of. So I have an image of a tape measure, of this yellow thing in my hand, and now I can, within that, start looking at different components of that thing, and all of those are further images. And even if I don't know what this is for, so I don't have a particular purpose in my mind of this thing. I have color, I have shape. Image of color, shape is already in my mind. And then, so then there is the image in my mind, and there is a thing in my hand. Thing in my hand is an image in my mind. So it's mind within the mind, within the mind, within the mind, within the mind, within the mind. The external world within the mind, the internal thoughts and my abstraction within the mind. So the mind comes first, and things can never leave the mind. That mind, not the mind of abstract thinking, which is already within the mind I'm talking about, as in within the image. You cannot possibly relate to it. You cannot think it, you cannot designate it, you cannot even fleetingly be aware of, what was that? You cannot even ask a question in regard to it, if it's not there at least to some extent as an image. That extent is an extent of an image. That's why the kasina, literal meaning of kasina is extent.
Yeah. Totality or something?
Totality. Totality of the extent. Yeah. Or the extent of totality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't be more specific than that, because that's as specific as it is. Can you ask a question about something? So you don't know specifically what it is, but there's something you want to ask.
Then there's something there.
Oh, I can't remember what it was, but I have a question.
Yeah, so there's an image there.
Yeah, but there has to be an image there of that extent of ambiguity, the extent of lack of clarity. Oh, my mind is empty now. It's blank. There is no thoughts in it. That's the thought of the images there. So you truly conceiving an objective reality free from you is inconceivable, because that's, you can only even relate to it in a wrong manner or right manner, in any manner, because it's there as an image enduring. How can you even talk about it or think it?
And so if you're if you're able to discern the extent of image, like the image
extent of manifestation,
then
you discern everything that has the nature to manifest.
Exactly. And if you also recognize the fact that these images have the characteristic of, I'm subjected to them, I didn't create them.
Yeah, they have arisen, they manifest.
Then there is absolutely no
they
room
endure,
for ownership.
they persist while they're changing, they're enduring. Images. Oh, I can put this, I can throw it away, I can use it, I can save it, I can do lots of things, because an image of it is still there for me. If that image of that disappears, either through this body being destroyed or the counterpart that's necessary, whatever, of my senses being destroyed.
Which is also another image, but yeah, let's...
Which is another image, exactly. You can't even think of the pure world, pure destruction, pure anything, without having it manifested as an image in your mind.
They're saying you're subjected to images. So how can you not be subjected?
What do you think?
Images? So, because if you, an image is there for me.
Yeah.
So that's afflicting me.
Yeah.
In a sense of I'm being subjected to it.
Okay.
But if I see that image is just there, I want to see that image is just there, but there's an image for me.
Yeah.
But that's an image.
Yeah.
So that's secondary to image.
It's not. Why is it secondary? It's an image. Secondary only in your assumed relationship between the two images.
The content of it.
What is the content of for me?
Well, it's different than content of like this is not the concept of for me.
What is the content of that tape? What is the content of it?
The color, the shape.
And does color have a content?
So you're saying, yeah.
So I'm saying that when you say content,
it's an image, not separate from.
So it's another image that you yet somehow assume to be the material content of my image.
As if that's not an image.
As if that's not an image, which means any sense of materiality or mentality has to be within an image.
So type of image.
Yeah, why would you worry about that? It's just, instead of two images, start thinking about one. So you said, this is for me. So there is an image of this, there's an image for me. Which is more important there? The image of this or the image for me? Well, the image for me, because it's an account for me that I feel and suffer. So you have an image for me, which has the nature of an image. So if you understand the nature of an image for me, you understood the nature of all images that are for you, which is literally anything you will be perceiving. So that's what I mean. It's not like comparing and figuring out the relationship between the two images. Why? Because you're failing to understand this common nature of it, which is it's an image. But if you're thinking about an image that doesn't pertain for me, means now you're thinking like a second hand, sort of abstractly. You want to make it relevant. Which means on the fundamental level of the experience, which is where the appropriation is, where the sense of ownership, sense of atta, everything is.
So it's like suffering.
Suffering. Yeah. What is suffering?
In terms of it's an image.
Whatever. What is suffering? When I say suffering, what's present in your mind? Suffering. What is suffering?
Pain and discomfort.
The pain and the discomfort stands for the image of suffering. It's an image of suffering. Image of pain. So what is the image of pain then? What are the characteristics of the image of pain? How would you describe it? which is the necessary image for the image of suffering? What's the image of pain?
Well, it's not. What is the image of pain?
Well, again,
I don't say it's not wanted.
Well, no, whatever you say, it's probably going to be more accurate than to try to think about what it is. Because when I say the image of pain, it's not like, where is the image of pain? The fact that you're thinking about something means there is the image of that there, to that extent. I'm asking you, tell me the extent of the image of pain when I ask you, what is the image of pain? I don't tell you, tell me the right image of pain.
Mm-hmm.
What is the extent of the pain? When you hear
The displeasure, the uncomfortable, the not wanted.
Not wanted. So, all these things have in common no, 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 no. That's in common. That's a common attitude to all these things. Displeasure, discomfort, no wanting means no, 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 no. Is no in things, or is no in your attitude in regard to things?
In your attitude.
In your attitude in regard to things you're subjected to. So where is then the suffering that you said that has a necessary image?
The resisting of it being.
So it's basically then the suffering is not in the image of pain. The suffering is in you saying no to the image of pain. But how can you even say no to an image of pain, to an image, without an image? Because saying no to the image of pain implies you having, well, saying no to there is an image implies you having, like, you can move outside of the space of that has arisen based on the basis of that image. Saying no to this means you can replace it with something else from the outside. Yet all that is within this you're saying no to.
So you're responding to an image that
By
you
an
don't
image.
want with another image.
Yeah. So discerning the nature of images will free you from suffering then. Because the image of pain is not the suffering. The image of discomfort is not the suffering.
So when I say I am afflicted by images, that is an image.
That's an image.
Which I'm afflicted by,
Yeah.
that's an image.
Because of another image,
Which is not.
which is your attitude of this, which you haven't been seeing as an image.
Yeah, I'm separating that.
That's what the
My
necessary
attitude and
reason
images.
for the right view is seeing the sign of your mind.
Mm.
And then within the now established sign of where your mind is, you can start to discern these images.
Sign of the mind is.
An image. It's the most general image of where my mind is. Which most people engage with the senses in the world on day-to-day level, they don't see it. That's why it's a necessary condition for becoming Satipatthana. Sign of the mind. But now this is even further what we're speaking about. It's basically seeing the presence of the enduring, resisting images within that mind of me or whatever else. So not seeing your attitude of, not seeing basically the attitude of resisting as an image.
Mm.
You kind of give it gratuitously, give it more validity on account of all the you assume it separate from all the images you're resisting to. Can you be resisting an image if there is no image there to begin with? If there is no image of pain, can you be resisting it? Inconceivable. Yet you somehow assume that you resisting it is the first, and then just these things come and are moving them away and chasing them away and accepting them and rejecting them.
I mean, it's kind of like phenomenology, just recognizing these
In the true sense,
phenomena.
Sure.
Like taken to the extreme of basically, just recognizing that there are these images there, these phenomena there that normally
have to be there.
that can't not be there. And they're so close to you that you normally look through them and take them for granted.
Yeah, and you will be taking them for granted because by looking through them, you start seeing further through,
Yeah.
and that you see further through, and that's how the whole sensuality proliferates as well. Because you're also not indifferent to these things. Every image is simultaneously felt pleasantly, unpleasantly, or neutrally. Has to be. One of those things has to be. And given that you have attitude in wanting pleasure, avoiding pain, means some images will be wanted, which means you'll be going for the content, failing to see the nature of the image. And another images will be rejected, means trying to deny the content, failing to see the nature of the image. And that's how you remain bound with image.
But if you were to see that which is wanted, that which is not wanted, as images, as that sort of common ground.
That's what I mean, like even these ambiguous things, wanting. Do you understand what wanting is? Wanting. How would you describe wanting?
Yeah.
Well, take a particular example. I want this. I want to eat. So what is my wanting in this particular
It implies
instance?
Yeah.
Okay, so exactly. So
Me,
it has to
that
be
thing.
me. It has to be that thing.
Yeah.
So you can do both. First, take that thing. Did you have any say in the manifestation of an image of that thing? If that thing is not already, because see, I'm not seeing the food now, yet I know I want food. How's that possible? If the food is genuinely, entirely, solely, fully material, how can I even think it? It's not. Material and mental are images first, and they always remain images. Now they're images that are sort of images of the senses, and they're images that are images of the mind. But they're all images. And while the senses, the five senses operate, they will be the images of the senses. While the mind is there, the mind operates, they will also be the image of the mind. It's not that the images of the senses and then there are also, the real objects of those senses. No. Again, object of the sense. Image upon image upon image upon image. Or an image.
So seeing image.
Means seeing the mind coming first.
Seeing image. And always seeing image.
Well, you don't need to, it's really discerning an image. It's not like I always have to be seeing the image, because you have no choice but to see anything else.
Yeah, discerning that.
But discerning what you're seeing. So, Putujana sees images, that's all he can see. Arahant sees images, that's all he can see. The difference is for Putujana, he misconceives images to be that which they're not.
As being separate from his mind.
Yeah.
Whereas...
Well, then the whole idea of separation comes from it, by assuming external, internal, both, neither, mine, not mine.
And what we're talking about here is the direction of unification of mind, of samadhi.
Unification, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
This is...
That's it. Because you discern the unifying contact, the unifying nature. That's when I ask you first, I say, what's in common to you looking at a tape measure and you thinking about not seeing it? What's in common? So it's training in regard to the ambiguity of images, not to clarify it into detail, but to recognize it, the extent of its ambiguity. Because it's only ambiguity of the content, ambiguity of the detail, not the ambiguity of the nature of image that I'm being subjected to. That's what I mean. And not being able to grip with that kind of recognition of that ambiguity, that's why you don't like wanting, not wanting, all these terms become abstract for most people. And let alone if you start thinking about emptiness, not self, impermanence, well, imagine how abstract that is. And abstract means you're not seeing it, that's it. You're not seeing an image of it. You're thinking it, which is already a second.
You have a thought, but you aren't seeing that thought as the
as
image,
an image.
as the image that it is.
Exactly, as an image, you're misconceiving that thought.
Because there is an image there, whether you see it or not.
Yeah. So literally any attitude is a wanting.
Yeah.
So wanting requires you. So let's dwell on the you aspect of wanting. Me. What is the image of me? First image that comes to mind. The most ambiguous, distant. Me. Me.
Shape of a body.
Exactly. But that's what it stands for.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about it, then you end up having all this attitude that it's more than that. But whenever you think, that's all it is. Shape of the body, memory of the face that you see in reflection,
place.
First point of view, place,
Yeah.
me, this. So while you have that image of shape of the body as me, which is me, to have any say in how that shape of the body has been manifested for me, subjective, what came before, after, can I even uproot it somehow, step outside of it? Or am I always secondary to that shape of the body? Or that memory of the face, of my own face, that stands for when I think me, my own name? No. That's you. You are basically locked outside of it. Or, locked inside of it, more accurately. Like, if you look left, right, up or down, wherever, you're within it.
Yeah.
Oh, so how can I then be the owner of this when all I'm doing is being subjected to these images?
That's
Images of
all
me.
I'm subjected to as well. That's all I'm
That's all you're
subjected to.
subjected
There's nothing outside that.
Oh, but there's more. There's
That's also
image
another image.
of more. Image of ambiguity of an extent.
Yes.
More. But that's an image.
Yeah.
That I'm subjected to.
That I'm subjected to.
but that's I don't like the I am subjected to images. Saying that because it gives me the impression that
Well, it gives you space to be separate
I
from
am
it.
subjected to these images.
But you have to start like that.
Sure.
Could you? Okay.
So-
what about the body, the senses?
Yeah, same.
The mind is subjected to images. That's the nature. That's what a mind is. There can't be mind without images.
But if I say manifestation is subjected to
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. If that becomes more accurate way of describing it for you, that's fine. But for most people, in order to start, you have to start like that, and then eventually you come to click. Okay, but I'm subjected to this. I'm subjected to that. I'm subjected to that. I am. Well, isn't that another image I'm subjected to? And then you get to upgrade your own description. But as I said, the starting point is the point of ignorance, the point of misconceiving, which means you will not be able to see immediately things like the Arahant does. Approximating how Arahant sees, you get to understand what Arahant is.
So we can say
which is what makes you become one.
All dhammas are anatta, not self. Because not self is an image.
Yeah.
Or self is an image.
Well, you could say that, yeah. The sense of self, it's, as you say, as we kind of just described, it's kind of becomes a more fundamental image than everything else that comes through your senses. Like whether I'm seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, as you said yourself, it's for me. So it's that image is in common to all these senses. So what if I were to then understand and abandon that image, abandon in the sense of experience dispassion and remove the ownership of it? You have removed the ownership of the five senses. You have removed sensuality, sense desires.
By removing the ownership of this image of self.
Yeah.
Exactly. That all these things come through. That's what Buddha meant by establishing your mind upon the totality of the extent of solidity, totality of the extent of airiness, or whatever you want to translate it. Basically, by practicing kasinas, you establish your mind to a certain level. Everything inferior to that is abandoned. Or, perceptions of the forest to abandon perceptions of the village. They had inferior perceptions in regard to it. As in, either way, which doesn't matter how particular perceptions get, this is what they have in common, and you abandon that common ground. So whether it's sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, the common ground is image of me, for me, mine, I am. You abandon that, you abandon all these inferior images within that image. And by abandoning means not preventing it from arising, because you haven't created its arising to begin with. It was never a problem. Abandoning it means removing the gratuitous attitudes of resisting it or craving for it. And you will crave for things for as long as you think you can crave for things. Fully understanding that craving is impossible, the way you assumed it, that's how you stop assuming
How can you crave for something that's already there?
Exactly. As I said, I don't see the food now, but I want to eat. I crave the food. Let's say I crave the food. If my craving is in the food, if the food is the craving, I would need to be in contact with it in order to crave for it.
But you are.
Yet, I don't even have food.
But you are in contact with it.
Exactly. But not the content on the domain that I'm craving for.
With the image.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you realize, so my craving is then on the level of the image, yet I don't stay on the level of the image when I crave. I go out and seek food.
Yeah.
And steal food and attack and kill and work and earn whatever. Rightly or wrongly, I go out and seek these objects because I crave in regard to the image of food. And that gets paired then with a discomfort of hunger. So they're naturally associating then seeking this food that I can put in my belly alleviates, helps my gratuitous attitude of resisting pain of physical nature, discomfort of hunger. But discomfort of hunger, again, It's an image. An image that literally you can put anything in your mouth, eat it. You wouldn't worry about the taste then, because you fully stay with the discomfort of the hunger as the context. Okay, I have to deal with this discomfort because the body will die. I don't need to crave for it in order to do it. But most people don't act on that level. Most people add on another whole layer added to it, which is, yeah, I'm hungry, but I want particular taste. And that's another image that can never be anything other than an image. But you assume taste to be in the objects of your senses, which is another image. But you assume the materiality of it independent of you. And that's why sensuality is wrong. Because it's a perversion of the right order of things. If you weren't perverting the order, it wouldn't be unwholesome. It wouldn't be wrong. So things that don't pervert the order are not wrong. Such as hunger, putting something in your stomach so you're not hungry. You don't misconceive what comes first. And the purpose then cannot become corrupted. That's the whole instruction of the Buddha, to eating mindfully, as in not to observe every movement of your tongue, but mindful of the purpose while you're eating it. Like, I will eat for this reason, for this reason, I will not eat for this reason, that's the mindfulness of eating, not chewing, slowly,
choking.
Yeah. No, why am I eating is because hunger is there. So you have an image of a hunger.
It's kind of
image of a hunger disappears, as in now gets replaced with the image of a non-hunger, you stop eating. Not even a second, what if this taste? Because all that became far removed now. There was never the purpose of the taste to begin with. The only reason you were even attracted to tastes is because of the pressure of the hunger. Yet you completely then, as a result of it, gratuitously assume taste to be in the matter of things that you can somehow access through your eating. Access the external world, that's another image in your mind. But you think, that's not an image, that's the world, that's the reality. And by doing so, you always remain bound to then that extent of assumption. That's the sensuality, the sensual thirst, wanting the object. How can you want the object unless there is an image of that you're wanting in your mind? And then, what is the object? Even if I'm consuming, crushing, eating, devouring, enjoying, whatever object, it's another image. Inescapable. You're fully within that. And when you fully understand it, you cannot even conceive outside of it. You stop conceiving outside of it, which is sensual domain, which is the assumption of sensuality.
So contemplating images being image.
Contemplating images, not in an abstract sense, but in a sense that they're already there. Discerning the images. Contemplating the images means discerning the images. Whatever it is, my experience as a whole, my body. Image of the body present here. I don't need to look at it. The fact that I can say my body is here, even if I close my eyes, means I have an image of it. The fact that then I can know what to look at when I say my body is here, means I have an image that's there. How would you even know where to look for it? Unless the image already implies the direction of it, the space, the spatial disposition, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my eyes closed, I've got my eyes open, still an image. Like, there's nothing.
It's just
fundamentally changes there.
There is an image of the senses and the image of the mind, but the image is there, and you can have both. The image is there, while the image of the senses and the image of the mind is there, but you can't attend to it to the same extent. It has to be one. That's why the 6 senses. So the image is there, and the 6 types of images are there. On account of the 6 senses being there. That's the sense basis. Salayatana, ayatana. It's like a field, like the extent. That's already an image within which then the sights come, which are further images within that extent. If there is no field where sights are, sights will not be manifested at all. So understanding the 6 sense basis means you overcome sensuality. Not by dealing, managing, getting rid of the objects of your sense basis. No. uprooting the framework of the basis. Uprooting it and removing ownership, misconceiving, lack of discernment, not seeing it as an arisen image, the present endures. That's why, like, suttas that deal with this, they talk about this often, like for people when they read just abstract, sounds, and then the idea of abstraction from a mind they cannot understand the nature of abstraction, then you end up assuming the extension of this already gratuitously assumed external material reality, and then you think all these meditation experiences get to pertain to the extension of this weirdly assumed external reality, like infinite space. It's the infinity of space. Neither perception nor perception. It becomes immediately like this transcendental universe elsewhere from these senses, magical. Yeah.
Whereas in fact they're images that actually are present but need to be discerned in order to sort of transcend.
Yeah, that's what when Satipatthana in Majjhima, one by one, when he's developing all the jhanas and then all the base of infinite space and so on, he would ask himself, oh, is there more than this? As in, is there higher? Is there greater than this? But he wouldn't go around to find it. He would just look at the same thing and then see that there is more to it. He would look at the same log.
He wouldn't go and read a book and what's the next
Let
stage?
me find another piece of log that's more liquid than the solid. That, no, it's within the same, there is more. So it's more on the level of the images, not more on the level of fantasizing about theory of linear connections between things that you already assume to be.
And in fact, isn't each progressive stage more like the sort of negative of what's here? But that negative is also a part of this.
That's why there is, even in Puthujjana experience, there is the element of Nibbana present. Which is why some people, some traditions, completely then jump to conclusion saying, so we are already in Nibbana. Because the Buddha said we all have element of Nibbana. We do. Element means present absence. So it's present as an absence. Means it's possible to discern it.
You don't create it.
Bring the context of it, develop the theme of it, as the Buddha would say, and that's how you develop it. But saying that presence absence means I'm already in that which is absent because it's present as an absence, well, that's jumping the gun. So there is the element of Nibbana in everyone's experience. Yeah, the actual Nibbana, there is the presence of it in everyone's experience. And that's another good thing to reflect, because you stop assuming it to be at the end of the world or at the end of your meditation observational technique. No, it's already here. Every minute of your life, element of Nibbana is with you. Understand the theme of that element. Understand the characteristics of that absence. That is Nibbana for you. And absence of greed, absence of aversion, absence of delusion.
And it shares the qualities of all the things we've been talking about, this kind of...
So is there beyond, when Sariputta asks, is there more than this, means exactly that. Discerning it as a present absence. Discerning it as a possibility to develop and dwell on. And then later on, as the Sutta says, he will develop it. He verified that there is more, there was more. Now that present absent is not absent anymore, because he fully discerned the context of that which was absent. If that was not even present, even a tiny bit, as an absence, you couldn't go in that direction. How can you discern something that doesn't exist? Hence the element of Nibbana, all the dhatus the Buddha lists. It's not the physical elements scattered in the world that you collect like gems or something. No, it's basically the present absences. The absences of all, the absence of dispassion, all these themes are present absences. All possibilities to develop in your practice are elements, as in they're present as absences. But again, it has to be an image to that extent. Even if you're complete, utter, sensual Puthujjana, Nibbana. What is Nibbana? You have some image, even if it's an image of a word. And that's what I mean. It closer then represents that ambiguous image, closer represents what Nibbana is in your experience than when you get to theorize what Nibbana is. Because at least you're looking in the direction of that absence
Mm-hmm.
that is present as such. That's why some monks needed very little detailed instruction. Some monks needed more. With a minimum instruction, they would have turned to the right direction of the right absence, and then dwell on it, and understand the context of it, and by doing so, develop. Even jhana is the same principle. The Buddha would say, develop the theme of jhana. Like jhanas are basically so close to the point of view. That's why it takes effort to attain it, to develop it. It's not like jhana is figuring something out at the end of a certain effort. The jhana is basically the way you're seeing regarding things that you then got polluted with your own ignorance, with your own lust, aversion and habits. So it's removal of this pollution to basically recognize that certain imperturbable basis, unified basis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whether I think about the sense object, whether I think about joy, grief, an image has to be there enduring, and you become discerning of the enduring image regardless of the content of whatever points you. That's already a unified mind. And that's already jhana on account of any experience you can have. That's why all those different ways of entering jhana with commentaries compiled from the suttas, but like looking at the corpse, establish jhana. Mindfulness of the body, establish jhana. It's not like this results in jhana. Jhana is an attitude of unification upon certain discernments. Discernment of dispassion, discernment of
again, like
sensuality, abandoning it, and so on.
so it's not.
So it's
Not
a
the
theme.
content. It's the
theme.
the,
Exactly.
The
The
nature
theme,
of
the
image.
context of exactly. The characteristics of the unified mind. So that's always, doesn't matter the experience, whether I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad, I'm physical discomfort, physical comfort, whatever it is. Doesn't matter how complex it is, how ambiguous it is, how content kind of inclined it is. Image is there, has to be there. Any idea of direction, any idea of the movement, to, for, against, both, neither, requires an image to be there enduring, some ambiguous image. So it's recognizing, learning how to discern an image in its ambiguity, not try to replace it with content that you deemed a worthy threshold of. Because how can you be exercising the threshold of necessary content unless there is an image that needs to be built up to that level?
I was just thinking it's about being skilled. I think you said being skilled in images, which is being skilled in Dhamma.
Being skilled in the mind, seeing the mind quickly. You know, like as soon as it arises, as soon as the image is manifest, he sees it exactly for what it is. He doesn't need to catch himself down the line, and then, well, you will need that in the beginning.
But it's just like the word for image is Dhamma.
Sure, being skilled in Dhamma, and that's why this teaching is the teaching the Dhamma, the image. The Buddha was teaching the image, the fundamental image, the universal image, in common to any five aggregates anywhere in any universal realm.
Understanding
it's the
things
image
at the most fundamental.
Understanding, and that image is understanding the nature of images.
The extent of images.
The extent of images.
Image extent.
Not image extent in terms of telling you how many there are. The extent of the nature. It's not like if he was talking about all these images, it's because it was the context of understanding the nature. And what is the nature of images? Cannot be owned. Cannot be appropriated. Cannot be yours. Cannot be controlled. You're the one subjected to them, not other way around. You understand that? You are free from the entire samsara. All of it. Absolutely nothing left. Samsara, universe, rebirth. All these different directions, what do they have in common? They are an image. Not this image, not that. A specific, maybe ambiguous, but as such, an image is there. What else is there when I have these images? It's always me. The sense of another image of me is always there. So that's kind of more in common to all these other things that you've been dwelling on. So why don't you dwell on something that's more in common to those particular things, as opposed to chasing down particular leads? And that's how inevitably you will end up to self-awareness, responsibility, point of view, all these things we talk about.
don't have to go and have refined images.
There wouldn't be refined images.
So even the
If you're refining your images, means you're not seeing them as images. You're basically chasing the content, which is another image that you fail to see. Hence the idea of refinement, of replacing it with another image of a different kind.
Ambiguous images.
Yeah. The true refinement of an ambiguous image is to recognize its ambiguity to be an image. That's how you refine it. You don't refine it by providing content for it. That's psychologization, basically.
Yeah, just now we were talking this whole idea of content. Every time you say content, I just think that's meaningless.
Well, once you establish your mind upon the unified image, then it's meaningless.
Yeah.
Being distracted becomes inconceivable, meaningless. Yeah. As in, it ceases. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Your mood is an image.
Yeah.
Has a shape, has a color to it.
Sometimes it's easy to name. Sometimes
has weight to it. Yeah, that's why when the Buddha described the Satipatthana for citta, elated, expansive, shrunk, depressed, elated, big, small mind. Because those are images that mind is. That is what mind is. Not I'm thinking elation. No, it's like you're discerning on the count of mood an image that's implicit in it. But you had nothing to do with it. You haven't created it. You could not have created an image. Impossible. I'm creating an image is an image that you're subjected to, and now you're trying to provide a secondary content to it that would feel more like yours.
So you've begun with an image of the possibility of creating images.
Yeah. Yeah.